The budget phone market has been booming with options from well-known brands like Samsung, Motorola and Xiaomi. However, lesser-known brands such as Oukitel have been making a name for themselves, offering affordable devices that challenge expectations. One such phone is the Oukitel P1, released in late 2024. And at first glance, the P1 bears a striking resemblance to an iPhone from its design to some of its UI elements. So can the Oukitel P1 prove to be a budget phone worth buying here in 2025? Let's take a look. So the first thing you'll notice about the Oukitel P1 is its design. Oukitel has taken clear inspiration from Apple's iPhone lineup, featuring flat edges, a matte finish, and even a camera module that mimics Apple's aesthetic. However, despite its premium appearance, the materials used are definitely in line with its budget price tag. The phone is primarily made of plastic, but it does feel sturdy in the hand. Overall, despite it being a clear copycat of the iPhone, I actually really do like the design. I really like this purple color, and the matte plastic finish actually does feel nice and premium, and it's got a glossy surround as well, making the phone feel really nice to use, and it's really lightweight as well. Overall, the design, although it's a copy, I do actually really like it. So despite the lack of premium materials, the Oukitel P1 does a really great job of looking a lot more expensive than what it actually is. And the phone features a 6.7-inch 1080p AMOLED display with a fast 120Hz refresh rate. The 1080p resolution is about what you'd expect at this price. 120Hz refresh rate is becoming more and more common on even budget phones. And one thing that's really great about this phone, despite its budget price, is those bezels are uniform around the entire display, as opposed to having a thicker chin at the bottom. That's something that Nothing introduced when they introduced the Nothing Phone 1. Really nice uniform bezels around the entire display, and that's something that is really great on this phone. And while it isn't the brightest display on the market, using it outdoors is absolutely fine, although in direct sunlight it might pose a little bit of a challenge. So for overall media consumption, the Oukitel P1's display is really great. It's got really nice bright colors, good contrast from that AMOLED display. Yeah, overall, I really like the display of this P1. And on to performance, this is an area where the Oukitel P1 definitely shows that it's a budget phone. It's come powered by the MediaTek Helio G99 processor, released back in mid-2022, I believe. It's not going to give you the best performance. It is a reliable performing processor, one that I've used on plenty of other phones in the past. So everyday use on this P1 has been absolutely fine and pretty much stutter-free. If you play a lot of intense games or do a lot of intense multitasking, you will find a little bit of a struggle from this G99. But for everyday use, going through social media, taking some photos, and just flipping between a few apps here and there, the G99 is absolutely fine and gives you plenty of reliable performance. Now, you get the phone either with 4 gigs of RAM or 8 gigs of RAM. I have got the 8 gigs model here, and the only storage option of 256 gigs. So you get plenty of storage. It is just UFS 2.2 storage, so it's not the fastest storage on the market, as to be expected, but 256 gigs is plenty, I think, for most people storing their photos, videos, and games. You do get the option to add a micro SD card. It is a dual SIM phone, with that second SIM slot also being able to be used for a micro SD card if you need to expand that storage. But overall, I've found the performance from the P1 to be absolutely fine. A few, like I said, stutters here and there when you try and push it to its limits, but for most average users, this is absolutely fine. No problems at all. And it's a pretty efficient chip as well. And as for endurance on the Oukitel P1, it's come packed with a 5,150 mAh battery, ever so slightly larger than the typical 5,000 mAh found on other budget phones in this price. And that is unfortunately paired with pretty mediocre 18-watt charging. Now, the endurance on this phone has been absolutely great. It can easily get you through a full day of pretty intense use, or if you're a light user, you could definitely stretch to 2 days of light use. And of course, that 18-watt charging isn't the fastest, but most people, I would imagine, charge their phones overnight. I certainly do, and that 18-watt charging will be absolutely fine. So if you have any worries or concerns about battery life on this phone, I wouldn't have a single concern. The charging speed might be an issue if you prefer a phone with faster charging, but in terms of endurance, this is absolutely great and will get you through a full day with no problems at all. And as for software on the Oukitel P1, we're running Android 14 with a pretty stock version of Android. There's not really much in the way of bloatware on this phone, but there are a couple of icons that you can see on the display here, which are a clear rip of Apple. The settings menu, the camera icon, the calculator, there's all these icons that are complete rip of Apple, but of course when you click on them, they just open the normal Android versions of those apps. But overall, you get good customization options. One thing that I haven't noticed or I haven't found on this phone is the ability to be able to change how many icons are displayed on the display, as in down the bottom. You don't seem to be able to add 5 icons along the bottom. You are just stuck with 4. So there are a few limitations when it comes to the customization on this phone, but you get the full gesture navigations, dark mode, all that sort of stuff on this phone. But there's a few niggly bits here and there that might not be to everyone's taste. And one area that's going to be a red flag for some people is the uncertainty with the software updates on this phone. Now it's running Android 14, it's got a relatively up-to-date January 2025 security patch. Whether it's going to get any more updates, I honestly couldn't tell you. Quite often phones from these brands, they don't come with any promises of major Android software updates. You will get the odd few security patches here and there, but I don't hold out much hope for this phone ever receiving Android 15, but I could be wrong. Do let me know down in the comments if you have picked up one of these phones, you're watching this a little bit later than now, and you have got Android 15. It'll be interesting to know if this phone does get any updates, just in case I don't have it in my possession anymore. And then if we lastly very quickly talk about the cameras on the Oukitel P1. It's equipped with a triple camera system headlined by a 50 megapixel f1.8 primary camera. You also get a 2 megapixel macro camera and then just a simple depth sensor as well. So it's not really a triple camera setup. There's only really one usable camera on this phone. And overall photos from that 50 megapixel main camera are pretty good actually. I actually do really like the results, especially when you're talking about the price of this phone. In good daylight, you get some nice detail, good amounts of color, and dynamic ranges, not too bad. Overall, it's a pretty solid main camera, but yeah, overall, I think the camera on this is about what you'd expect from a budget camera. You've got that, what was it, LiDAR sensor underneath. That's probably just for decoration. And then of course you've got that LED flash above that. But here are a few photo and video samples coming from the Oukitel P1. Do let me know down in the comments what you think. And you also get a 32 megapixel f2.2 selfie camera, which tops out at 1080p video recording. So again, let me know down in the comments what you think of the photos and video from this phone. And then just a few more features from the Oukitel P1 that didn't make it into the rest of this video. The display is protected with Corning Gorilla Glass 5, and you also get an under-display fingerprint scanner. You get Bluetooth 5.2, NFC, and you also get an FM radio. So I'm just going to come through on a different day just to quickly mention about the speakers on the P1. It's just a single bottom firing speaker. It's not particularly loud, and I do find that it is quite tinny, so it's not the best quality speaker as to be expected on a budget phone. But even at other phones at this sort of price, I have heard better speaker quality than what you find on this P1. But here's a quick sample. So this is being shot at full HD at 30 FPS on both of these phones. The G75 can top out at 4K 30 FPS, whereas the G85 is just topped out at 1080p. Now judging on the screen, 5. So that's just my very quick look at the Oukitel P1. Overall, I think this is a pretty solid phone. It's going to cost you about 180 quid here on Amazon in the UK. For that price, I think it's a pretty nice phone. That display is really, really nice. You get a nice under display fingerprint scanner, really nice design. Now, the main thing that's going to put some people off, I believe, are going to be the lack of software updates or the uncertainty of those software updates. But overall, let me know what you think of the Oukitel P1. Let me know what you think of this video. I will be dropping a camera comparison video between this and the Blackview Shark 9, another lesser known brand that you might be interested in as well. Drop a subscribe on the channel, hit a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.